Thank you. Good afternoon also from my side. I'm from the agricultural engineering group in tropics and subtropics, and I'm a colleague of Catalina, and actually I worked with the same product, so also the fresh cascara or the fresh husk, or let's say the skin and the pulp. And here we were using another approach, like we were putting it into flour. So the study here, what I'm presenting is evaluation of coffee cherry flour as a functional ingredient in pastries. Just a short introduction. We know that globally and annually there is a lot of waste produced in the coffee process, especially in the coffee producing countries, right? There is the skin and the pulp produced. And what we see here is that it's composed of carbohydrates, that we have bioactive compounds inside. We heard about the chlorogenic acids, minerals, and a few apart also proteins. It's edible, so it could be a valuable product for food. And if we would valorize this byproduct, we could mitigate environmental impact of this coffee waste. And we might also create a new income source for smallholder farmers. Since they don't need to waste it, they can process it and then maybe later on sell it. So our objectives were to investigate the use of coffee cherry flour as an alternative baking ingredient in pastries. We wanted to characterize the nutritional and physicochemical properties of this flour, develop high fiber recipes, and evaluate the effect of replacing wheat flour with varying proportions of coffee cherry flour. So here you can see, the animation doesn't work, so it would be a bit hard for you to see, but either way, so our product we were using, like the fresh cascara, it was from Costa Rica, from the Bella Vista coffee farm. And this is how it looked, like the fresh cascara. We started with 10 kg. And then, as my colleague already told, we were actually freezing it to be on a safe, hygienic level when we were using it. So after defrosting, this is how it looked. And here you have the answer also for your brown jam, let's say, because this is how it looked when it came out. And after we defrosted it, we were actually drying it in a tray dryer at 55 degrees Celsius for 5 hours. After that, you see the dried pulp. It also changed a bit color, like it turned a bit darker. This is what we had heard before, like also some melanoids were produced. And then, for sure, we need to mill the thing to produce flour. And here we used 3 steps of milling. The first one was in a hammer mill with a sieve size of 3.8 millimeters. Then we went down with the sieve size, and we were still not satisfied with the product. In the middle, you can see the picture of the product after the hammer mill. It was still quite coarse, so we included another step, which was the milling in a centrifugal mill with 1 millimeter sieve size. And then in the upper right corner, you can see the coffee cherry flour, how it looks in the end. And from 10 kg, we gained roughly 2 kg of coffee cherry flour. For sure, most of it is water, and we lose something at the milling process. Here you can see our products which we produced. Like we were having 2 different leavening agents. So we were producing a plain cake, and we were producing sweet yeast bread, which is very common in Germany to eat when you're having coffee after lunch or like in the afternoon. Then you have your sweet yeast bread and you have a cup of coffee with it. And we have 4 different samples here. So the first one is the reference. We didn't add any of the coffee cherry flour, and then we added coffee cherry flour in 3 different proportions. And yeah, those I will just refer to as low, medium, and high recipes. You see that in the low is 5%. So we replaced the wheat flour, yeah? We took out 5% of the wheat flour and we just put in the coffee cherry flour. So we didn't change the formulation at all. And then for the high, we used around 15% of coffee cherry flour. Now it's not working. Is this one working? Okay, maybe the technicians can put on the next slide. I don't know. Aha. No, it's fine. Just show the nutritional values. Okay. Yeah, so to start off, this is the nutritional values of our coffee cherry flour. And you see most of it, like almost 50%, we have total dietary fiber, which is interesting if you want to produce a high fiber product, for sure. Then we have around 30% of sugars, 9% moisture, and I told you like few, or less protein, like around 8%. And we're having around 6% ash content. So this is the mineral matter. And if you followed my colleague closely, it was 8% before. And I think those 2% are the one which we are losing by producing the flour. Like maybe to the milling process, like some particles will be out. And we have around 1% of caffeine. Here you see the number 0% tannins, but that's not true. It was around 0.3% tannins, but we didn't see any problems with the tannins because we were like wondering if this might be a problem in the product, but no, there we're safe. First of all, I would like to show here for the sweet yeast bread how the dough volume increase was. So what we did here, everybody who's baking knows that when you produce a yeast dough, it needs some resting time. And we let the yeast dough rest for 1 hour, and we checked how the volume increase was after 1 hour. We see that for the reference, it works really nice. We have a nice volume increase, but the more coffee cherry flour we introduced into that bread, the worse the volume increase was. But here I'd like to remind you, we didn't change the formulation at all. So this can be addressed later on to see what's the problem. Is it the caffeine, or is it the reduced gluten, what we have inside, or maybe the fewer moisture which is available to form a nice dough? Yeah, these results are also reflected in the specific volume which was developed after baking. And here on the left side, you can see the plain cakes, and on the right side, the sweet yeast bread. You can already see from the pictures that there is a difference in volume development. And and also you can see here the color. So for sure, the crumb color changes if you add coffee cherry flour, and people are thinking of whole grain flour actually when they see it. Like in general, what we saw is that people like the color, especially from the low recipes. They enjoyed the looks. Yeah, here results for mineral matter and protein content. On the left side, you can see the mineral content or ash content, and the results for the plain cake in blue and for the sweet yeast bread in orange. And we see that, the more coffee cherry flour we add, the more mineral content we have later on in our pastries. For the protein, the picture is not that clear because actually the protein content with 8% is lower than the protein content of the wheat flour which we use, which is around 11%. So it depends a bit on the formulation, how the relationship then goes up and down, but there is no clear picture. But then for the dietary fiber, we definitely see an increase. This is what we wanted to see, right? We want to have high fiber pastries. And yeah, here they are all significant. And if we check the health claims from the EU for this claim for a source of fiber or high fiber, you can see here entered the limits. So to have a source of fiber, you have to have minimum 3 grams of total dietary fiber per 100 grams of dry matter. And if you want to have the claim high fiber, it has to be 6 grams. And especially with the yeast, sweet yeast bread, it was, we definitely achieved with the medium and the high level. And also for the plain cake with the high proportion, we could achieve this claim. Now this is the caffeine content. Here I'm showing the reference also. I mean, we for sure we didn't measure any caffeine in there. But yeah, caffeine content increases, but it's still very low, so it's safe for consumption. You can have a few pieces, doesn't matter, it's fine, but still we need to keep that in mind, and especially if we're using other varieties where the caffeine content might be higher. And also tannins, again, I'd like to point out here, it was not even possible for us to quantify the tannins in the pastries. Like we could just detect it in the formulation with the highest proportion of coffee cherry flour added. Yeah, so to conclude, incorporation of this coffee cherry flour negatively influences the volume increase of the yeast dough and also reduces the specific volume of the resulting pastries. Pastries enriched with the coffee cherry flour exhibit higher levels of minerals and dietary fiber compared to those only made with wheat flour. And yeah, what I already said, like we should adjust those formulations for the future. So yeah, that we have a better volume increase. But we can also see that there would be nutritional benefits for us if we include it in pastries, for example. Yeah. Yeah, with that, I'd like to thank the whole team and also especially Fiat Panis for founding the scholarship of our master student to go to Costa Rica and doing this research. Thank you.